This podcast is for educational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. Always seek appropriate medical care whenever needed. Welcome to Biker Nurse Radio. So welcome back to Biker Nurse Radio. My name is Zachary, and with me as always is our ER nurse expert, Sean. Sean, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And today we're talking about a subject that matters a lot. What to do right after a crash. Now, Sean, you've seen this from both sides, on the road and in the ER. So, sensitive subject today.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to talk about stuff that actually matters. That's why we're here, talking about stuff that matters to riders.
So I think it's a good subject. It's something that every rider should have in the back of their head to pull from their holster at any moment. But before we get started, I want to say that we're not here to put the fear of God into anybody, the fear of the road into anybody. This is not about fear.
No, it's just for riders and just for education and knowledge. What do you do if God forbid you're in an accident?
So this is more preparation than anything else. So you know what it is that you need to know. So Sean, set the stage for us. You just got done pulling up to somebody. They've laid their bike down. What do you do?
Well, I mean, as a rider, if you go down, the first thing you should do once you go down, just stop. Take a moment, hit the pause button. Don't try to react. You just need to evaluate the situation you just got yourself in and make sure that A, nothing is hurting, but B, your adrenaline is kicking in so much that you want to immediately get up. And that's probably not what you want to do. You want to take a second and just pause.
Well, that pause, it sounds like really good advice, but it also is against every single thing that we think of, because you're embarrassed. And the first thing you want to do is jump up. That didn't happen to me, right?
Yeah. The adrenaline is kicking in, and that's that's what adrenaline does.
So is the embarrassment.
Yes,
depending on how you dropped it, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's good advice. Stay calm. Say, okay, talk to yourself. Say, self, I was just in an accident. What should I do now, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. What's next after that?
Well, like I said, it's the adrenaline wants to kick in, and adrenaline is not lying to you. It's saying, there's something wrong, but you need to take that second and pause. And like I said, it's powerful. Adrenaline is powerful. It can mask the pain.
It can also, people get high on it. They run around trying to get adrenaline all the time.
Correct, yeah.
But in this case, it's lying to you.
It's lying to you, yes, it is. Hard to believe, but yes, it's lying to you. Like I said, you could have a broken bone and not even realize it. That's why you need to take a second to pause, and then you need to ask yourself, does anything hurt? Where am I hurting? And even then, the first instinct is to get up and jump up, and you just don't do that. Just take that extra second and evaluate your situation.
How many times have we seen, even if it's in the movies, have we seen somebody, they've had an accident, motorcycle or not, they pop up, and then 5 seconds later they're just fall right down.
Fall right down. And and we're going to talk about this, as far as a bystander goes. But the most important thing, and we'll get to neck injuries and stuff, is that if your first instinct is to take off your helmet, don't do it. Yep. Don't take off your helmet. And if a passerby that happens to stop, which is always a good thing, we know that people are going to stop and make sure you're okay. But if their first instinct is to come take off your helmet, be nice, don't be rude, but be loud and vocal. Don't touch the helmet.
Yep.
Not until somebody can evaluate you, which would usually be EMS, and we'll get into that shortly.
They've also have stickers. I used to have one on the back of my helmet that says, in case of emergency, do not remove helmet, to let people know, even if you can't talk.
Right.
So, and that's because there's even more risks involved if they do remove your helmet, right?
Yes. Yeah. If you're having neck pain, obviously do not take it off, because if you take off the helmet and you get neck pain, you can make a survivable situation not survivable. That's very important. I mean, if they start messing with the helmet and you've got a neck injury or a neck fracture, people may think if you got a neck fracture, you're paralyzed. That's not true. People have neck fractures all the time, and they're not paralyzed. But if you start trying to yank helmets and move stuff around, you will end up a quadriplegic.
Well, depending on what type of helmet you have, if you have one like yours, a full face helmet, it's going to take a bit to get it off.
Yes.
And that's strain on your neck for sure.
For sure. Yeah, and you know, with the visor down and everything, it's like you can raise the visor up, but even then, I probably wouldn't even do that. I would just wait till somebody, EMS shows up, and let them evaluate what to do. You think about this, and we've seen this. We've seen this with Hamlin, the Buffalo Bill football player. When he went down, I mean, he had his helmet on, his football helmet. And what did they do on the field? They didn't remove his helmet. They removed the face mask, but they kept his helmet on for stability. It's kind of the same thing you want to think about if you come across somebody like that.
Yeah, makes sense. So we know, don't remove your helmet. Remove your helmet, you give more risks for your neck, your head, your injuries in general. What about moving the rider themselves?
Well, you know, I kind of want to go back to the rider before anybody shows up. You know, I can't emphasize this enough, but just take a pause, 5 to 10 seconds. You know, evaluate what's going on. Do I feel anything? Am I in any pain? Can I move my fingers and toes? Just because you think you can move doesn't mean you should.
Sure.
And so that's why you kind of need to self-evaluate anything. You know, that's just kind of it's just like a fine line. You know, even if you can, don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah. So don't move.
Yeah.
So if you're laying there unconscious, and there's a bystander there, the bystander shouldn't try to move you either.
Unless it's a safety situation.
Unless they're in the middle of the road or something.
Exactly. Right? Or there's a fire, then, you know, life over limb.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do what you got to do to save that person. So, yeah, if they're you know, in the roadway and it's a dangerous situation, then you need to move them. But if they're in an area that seems safe, leave them alone.
I think most of us would probably just jump in front of traffic and say, "Hey, go around," rather
Right.
than move them, because
Right.
it'd be safer.
Sure.
Well, it'd be safer for the person that's down, not necessarily safer for the person blocking the traffic.
Right.
I guess it depends on where you go down.
Yeah, and like I said, if there's a fire going on, life over limb, you got to do what you got to do to save that person.
Yeah. Because you don't want the bike to explode under them.
Nope, absolutely
And we've
not.
seen it happen.
Make things, you know, from bad to worse.
Yeah. All right. So the next question, you've done all that on your own, or seeing the person, either one. When does the whole 911 thing come in?
Should be almost immediately, no matter what. No matter what, even if, you know, they say, no, you don't need to call 911. No, it's always better to call 911 and have EMS come and check you out. Doesn't mean you go to the hospital, but you should still get checked out minimum by EMS, and I would still go anyway because things can come in later. Just because you feel fine,
There's that feel fine thing again.
yeah, doesn't mean that everything is fine. Because I can tell you, there was one time a guy came in hours later after having a wreck on his motorcycle, refused EMS, and then he comes in 6 or 7 hours later, and he had a pneumothorax. And if you're a medical, you know what that means. For a layman's term, he had a collapsed lung, and he was having a hard time to breathe.
He was walking around with a collapsed lung.
Walking around with a collapsed lung, having a hard time to breathe.
Well, I think that, you know, as far as calling people, even if, and I know that like cops and stuff do this, so I'm assuming you would know more than me if the EMS people do it, but won't they kind of help you evaluate the situation over the phone? They'll say, is this happening? Is that happening? Whatever. So they can tell you if it's safe to do whatever the next step is while they're on their way.
They will, the more information you can provide, the better, because they will help EMS when they show up. But 911 will be asking you questions. EMS is going to show up, and they're going to ask you questions, and it kind of guides us when you come into the ER. Did you fly over the handlebars? Did you hit your head? Is your head hurting? If they're on the phone, you know, let them lead. You know,
Makes sense.
let them, either the 911 operator or when EMS shows up, let them lead. Answer questions honestly. I mean, you could be embarrassed, but answer them honestly, even if it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Because honesty is better than not, and then things get complicated later.
You know, this reminds me of on our way back from the Gulf of America Bike Week, we saw a pretty big accident. That wasn't a motorcycle.
Sure.
It was, you remember the car, like the truck flipped over?
Yeah.
And then, of course, having a nurse with me, we stopped
Yeah,
doing the responsible thing. And you went through all of these same things, even though they were in a cab.
Yeah, I mean, just asking questions. Do you hurt? Is there anything bleeding? In this case, with the car, did the airbag deploy? And I think we did see the airbag deploy.
It did.
Yeah, and so
She deployed some other things too.
yeah, and you know, she hit her. And initially, she was okay, but she was in shock. That's another thing. Shock,
Yeah.
shock is a big thing. That's just the body taking over. That's, you know, and shock can, you know, shock and adrenaline, it can mask pain. You know, also, you know, as a rider, the one thing you should check for is, are you bleeding?
Mm-hmm.
Can you move your fingers? Can you move your toes? Am I bleeding? What hurts? Does my head hurt? I mean, 5 to 10 seconds, self-evaluate yourself.
Well, when we got up to the car, before we even got there, she was standing up outside of the car because her
Right.
immediate reaction was to get up, and she was shaking like a leaf.
Yeah, she was shaking like a leaf. She was in shock. So yeah, you know, just had her back.
You had
down.
her sit back down.
I
Yeah,
did. Yeah, had
it's
her
like
sit back
act like
down.
you didn't move.
Yeah, had her sit back down. Don't move. Do we need to call anybody? 911's en route. Do we need to call anybody for her and everything? And she just didn't know what happened. I you know, from what it was raining, so we know that. So the roads were, and it just started raining, so the roads were wet.
Mhm.
So apparently she was going too fast. We know that because she passed us.
Well, and that truck was in the air.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it just veered from the far left lane over to the far right lane and hit the concrete median head on, and the truck, actually all 4 tires was up in the air.
Yep.
And then when she hit, it came back across
Yep.
all lanes of traffic. Then she hit the left inside retainer wall, and then it straightened out, and she was scraping up the entire right side.
Yep.
So
That
yeah,
wall helped her stop.
it helped her stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that happened in this particular instance is there was other people there also. So while he and I were sitting there, you know, are you okay? Are you blah, 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 blah. He's in control of that. He's a nurse, I'm not. But there's other people that stopped also, and they said, what can we do? And the answer was call 911.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, I also teach CPR, but that's the first thing in an emergency situation.
Mm-hmm.
You just start directing, you know, you call 911, you make sure the scene is safe, things of
Yeah.
that nature.
Sure.
And so those are the things that you just do immediately.
And that's something that's important to know. If you don't have a nurse with you, somebody needs to take control. Because a lot of times people will, him and Han, have no idea what to do. But if you're conscious enough to kind of take lead of the situation and start telling people, okay, I know this needs to happen, this needs to happen, somebody's got to step up. So if you're that guy, be that guy. If you have a nurse, let the nurse be that guy.
Yeah. And you know, this has even happened on the airplanes when I was flying. I mean, somebody needed a nurse or a doctor, and you won't believe how many doctors or nurses are around you. I mean, all you have to do is ask, and there's usually somebody medical in the vicinity. So
That's always in the movies. There's a doctor in the house.
yeah, always. And you know, and I know me as an ER nurse, you know, it was always my instinct to stop,
Sure.
to render aid. Any nurse will do that. In fact, I think this incident in Florida we were talking about, I think one person was a nurse, but she was an OBGYN nurse. So she, you know,
Still had the same instinct.
had the same instinct. Yeah. So we're all about helping people. I know bikers out there, that is always what we do.
Yep.
We're always going to stop no matter what.
Part of the credo.
Yep.
All right, so now we've talked about 911. And what if you're in the mountains? There's no cell service.
You know, it could be kind of pricey, but let a buddy know. Let a buddy know where you're going. Let them know what time you're expected to arrive. And if a certain time passes and you haven't heard from that person and you can't reach them, you kind of know where they're going because they told you, then that might be time to call 911 and do a search party or something to see if anything happened. Another thing you can do with remote services is satellite phone, and the iPhones now have a satellite function. And I don't know if you know that, but there's actually a satellite Starlink on your iPhone to where you can use a satellite. That's what happened. I know that's what's happened in the past with people hiking in the mountains, and they're way up high, and they get lost, turned around.
Sure.
And so that's one thing that Apple did, is they put a satellite thing on it where you can communicate with
Emergency,
satellites.
yep.
And now with Starlink, I'm sure you can kind of do the same thing.
Probably, I would imagine.
I don't know much about Starlink. I know it's a good thing. I know when the internet goes out in foreign countries, Elon would send the Starlink over, and they're able to communicate. So that's another thing. So
Sure. All right, so that's from the biker side of things. From the EMS side of things. Now, I know you were in the ER, not necessarily in the ambulance,
Right.
but still, you know more than the rest of us do.
Right.
What do they think when they pull up to a motorcycle wreck?
So they're going to be asking the same questions that maybe 911 did. Do you hurt anywhere? Tell me what happened, if you can, and then they're gonna start assessing. Does anything hurt? Can you move this? Does your head hurt? And if you're wearing your helmet still, they're gonna make that determination on whether or not they're gonna take it off. But they're the ones that would be qualified to do it. And probably in experience, they probably won't. They will put you on the backboard, that's for sure. And they'll put you on the backboard, helmet intact, everything, put you in the ambulance and take you to the ER, and then that emergency room doctor can make the determination on what to do.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some liability scares in that too. They want to get it to a real doctor as soon as they can.
Yeah.
I've seen in movies and stuff where the doctor's an ass and they fight over who has permission to do what.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you about your relationship with doctors.
Doctors, they're always good, I had the good. I've always had good ER doctors that work with, because we've always had good protocols. And so if the ER doc trusts you, you can, as a nurse, you can pretty much order what you want when you want. And we always have protocols as far as blood work, lab work, and things of that nature.
Sure.
So that's just a common thing. But sometimes when it comes to CTs, if we suspect something and the doctor trusts you, go ahead and order it. And then just let the doctor know when you see him. Because obviously in an ER, you're balls to the wall crazy for the most part. I've never seen an ER that is slow. Watch the pit, you'll know what I'm talking about.
I know that when I had a motorcycle accident in 2014, I believe it was, and I cracked most of my ribs, cracked my pelvis. It was a situation, and I of course had no idea, because I got transported to, number one, I didn't want to get in the ambulance because everybody knows how much the damn ambulance costs.
Yeah.
So I tried to not get in the ambulance, and I think it was a cop that was there, was like, okay, walk to me. So I had the person that was with me, who is now my wife, help me stand up, and then she wasn't supposed to help me stand up either, but she did. And then, okay, walk to me, and I took one step, and
that was it.
Because my pelvis was broken.
Sure.
So I couldn't walk, but I thought I could. There goes that adrenaline again.
Yeah, the adrenaline
But
and the ego.
The second we got into the emergency room, people started talking about how it was a motorcycle wreck. They were surprised that I was there at all. So there is kind of a judgment call when people are on motorcycles and they have a wreck, that it's going to be the worst situation it can be.
Right.
I would think.
They're going to, EMS is going to know too, how fast were you going?
Yeah.
Did you go flying over the handlebars? Did you hit anything going over the handlebars? And, and did your head hit anything? Those are the questions they're going to want to know, because that kind of determines how the treatment's going to go. And they relay that to the hospital that's going to receive you, so we know when this person is coming what has kind of happened. We're going to know when they walk in what happens. So it kind of, it just tells a story.
Yeah.
We need to know what the story is. Did they slide? Did you slide and did the bike land on you? So
all those things are going to matter.
Yeah, they all
And
matter.
a lot of them have to do with where you speeding or showing off. Because that's something that you see. And YouTube is filled with it.
We saw that in Daytona. People doing wheelies on their bikes.
That's a fast way to get a ticket in Daytona.
It is. It's one of the faster ways for sure. And then, Lord forbid, if you're popping a wheelie and all of a sudden you go, you pop that wheel down and the wheel twists, then you're in a whole lot of trouble. But speed matters a lot for sure. And it's like a low speed tip over is different from a highway crash.
Oh,
You know?
true. Yeah, we kind of talked about that last time. If you're trying to park your bike, you fall and hit your head, you're still hurt.
You're still hurt. Yeah, and you still need to be evaluated for sure. Anything that involves the head, just go and get evaluated. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. That's almost an automatic. Don't take it lightly.
Yeah. So what are some other things that the EMS folks are going to be looking at?
Well, like I said, they're gonna assess you for any broken bones and asking you those questions. What's hurting? They're gonna look for anything that's bleeding. They're gonna look at your jeans to see if you slid. And I'm here to tell you, jeans. I know we all wear them, but they are the worst if you slide. They will just tear up in a heartbeat.
They don't protect a whole lot. That brings up the whole safety gear thing all over again.
And that'll be for another episode for sure. And you know, there are things out there that I know there's jeans out there that have armor in them, and we'll talk about all that too. And hopefully, I'll have a couple of things to demonstrate on that too.
Yeah.
Test them out.
All right, so let's talk about real world situations.
Okay. Yep.
So we're talking about what happens after you have a wreck or you stumble upon a wreck. What are some mistakes that you've seen riders or bystanders, either one? What are some mistakes that you've seen happen? Real world stuff.
From a rider getting up too fast.
Yeah.
I mean, that's instinct kicking in. You know, I want to get up, and then you know, as you talked about earlier, walk to me, and you took a step, and down you went.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And because I mean that pelvis.
My thought was that, you know, because I used to ride motocross, so you went down a lot. And so my thought, and I literally said this out loud, is I do this all the time.
Yeah.
I did it all the time 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, but the biggest thing is in the ER is guys that waited too long to come in. You know, they just wait too long, and then when they come in, you taken a minor situation and made it worse.
That's a scary thought, making it worse.
Making it worse. You know, we all have egos, every one of us. But you gotta trust the people that are around you, telling you need to do this. Trust EMS, even if you don't agree with them, and they say you need to go to the hospital. Just go to the hospital, get checked out, get cleared.
What about the times when, because Lord knows the economy and the way that things cost, what about the people that refuse EMS? They're like, call EMS. No, I don't want an ambulance. I don't want to go to the hospital. What about those folks?
At the minimum, at least let them come out and evaluate you. At the minimum. I mean, they may refuse it, but let EMS come out and evaluate you. And you can always refuse to get in the ambulance. You can still refuse to get in the ambulance, but
Right.
at least let them check you over.
Yeah.
At the minimum.
Is there any cost associated with that? I know the cost starts with the ambulance ride,
Sure.
but they don't even take your insurance card when you're laying on the road.
No, and it's usually, like you said, if you get transported.
Yeah.
We had to transport my mother-in-law to the hospital, and that bill came in, it was $1,700.
So do everything you can before you get in the ambulance.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I want to touch on this too, is a brain bleed. We've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
A brain bleed doesn't really show up right away. So if you say no to EMS and you go home and all of a sudden you start developing a bad headache, that could be an internal hemorrhage that's happening, and that's emergent. And
All right. So you've allowed them to come. You didn't get an ambulance yet. What about people minimizing what's wrong? Because that happens too. People talk about, oh no, they're tough, they'll be fine, whatever. Because that happens too. What about saying you're okay when you're really not?
I would just be honest. Just be honest with them. They're going to ask you questions. Did you hit anything when you went over? How fast were you going? This is a time to not be untruthful.
It's not something you want to be tough about.
Yeah.
You can be tough when you're telling the story later.
Yeah, you don't want to hide facts from them, because they're there to help, and it's really, I mean, it's your life that could be literally on the line. And if you say I'm fine, I'm fine again. That's just one of those things to where if you refuse EMS, fine, you had the right to do that. But then hours later, you start to hurt more, and especially if you're hurting in the head, and that could be a brain bleed going on. And guess what? That becomes emergent, because now you need emergency intervention, and that usually requires a straight trip to the OR to relieve the pressure in your brain. And I will tell you this, is that one time we had a brain bleed going on in the ER. And if you're going to get grossed out, you might want to cover your ears on this one, because there was no time to wait in the OR. So we drilled a hole in the head in the ER and relieved that pressure, because that's what you got to do. You got to relieve the pressure. So, like I said, things may seem normal at the time, but then 6 hours later, you could be fighting for your life.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So let's bring this to a close here. Let's what people are sitting at their home. Some of them, listening via podcast. Who knows? What is it that we want them to walk away from today with?
It would be mainly 4 things. Pause. Don't jump up. Take a second. Take 5 to 10 seconds. Evaluate what's going on with you. Are you hurting? Are you bleeding? Can you move extremities, fingers and toes? Like I said, taking that breath. Communicate. Tell everybody around you what's going on. And if they try to remove your helmet, be nice, but be emphatic. Don't remove my helmet. Let somebody professional do that, and that's probably going to happen in the emergency room, more than likely by a doctor who's going to evaluate your neck, going to take some CT scans, make sure everything's okay before we even get to that point. Now, in the emergency room, we have a whole bunch of people. We can stabilize the neck area and take that off. So somebody's going to remove the helmet, probably the doctor. The doctor's going to direct how that happens. And so, as nurses, we're going to have our hands on the head as the helmet's being removed, and we're going to keep that neck area stable.
As still as you can, yeah.
We're going to have that stable. You're probably still going to be in the backboard, because we're going to clear that after x-rays and everything is done before we clear the C, what we call the C-spine. We're going to make sure it's cleared. Those kind of things. Like I said, are you bleeding? And then, with communication, make sure somebody calls 911 or you call 911 if you can move your extremities with any kind of pain.
Sure. So 4 basic steps. So there's pause, assess your situation.
Yep.
Then communicate what's going on.
Yep.
And call for help. PACC. That should be pretty easy to remember.
Yeah.
That's not easy to remember.
Yeah, acronyms are great. Yeah. It's like, acronyms are great. It's like race, for the fire thing. Race. But, that's the goal. You're not going to remember a 10-step checklist, but if you can remember those 4 things, your outcomes should be much better.
So, that's really serves the purpose of the show, right? It's not doom and gloom and blood stories, even though those do happen. It's about preparing people, giving them some tool that can help them. So now remember PACC.
That's it.
And then
pause, assess, communicate, call.
To try to remember what it stands for. That's the other part of it. Right. You're back in school again. You're making flashcards.
Right. Yeah.
So really, it's kind of the same reason why we talk about gear, to help people prepare, to help them know, to help them, stay knowledgeable. This is just another part of it. So wear gear and PACC.
Yeah, this episode isn't about expecting a crash. It's about what to do if you happen to have one. And if any bit of this information reaches one writer and changes an outcome because they saw this and were made aware of what to do and the steps that to take, then it's worth it. It's worth every minute.
Yeah, and this is the type of thing that everybody in your crew should hear. So if you don't want to tell them, just share the episode. Let them learn the same stuff, because you might be the one that's in the wreck and they're the bystander. You want them to know this stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. And just like I said, let a buddy know. If you're riding solo, a lot of us do ride solo. But if you do ride solo, let somebody know where you're going and where you're going to be and what route you're going to take and what time you're expected back. Because if a loved one is expecting you and you're not there, it kind of will let them know, what's going on. And if they can't reach you by phone and hours pass to where they can't reach you, then if they know where you're at least a search party can be initiated come look for you in case something bad did happen. So just keep that in mind.
And you're all ready for that, because if you have children, you've been through that scenario in your head a million times when they didn't call because they were supposed to and they didn't do it. So you know exactly what that feels like when you're like, okay, what's next? I have to go find them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, if you have a daughter, we all know how that is. If they're out on a date, yeah, we're going to be overprotective for sure.
All right, everybody. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Stay safe out there, ride safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one. This has been Biker Nurse Radio.
Your truth from the open road.
That's it.